Thank you so much for the introduction, Luca, and hi, everybody. It's really nice to have you here tonight. I definitely love the commitment at 7 p.m. if you're joining from the East Coast on a Tuesday. But if you're watching this another time, I obviously still appreciate you. I'm going to start by presenting here. I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started. Okay, you should be able to see my screen now. Okay. Luca, can we see this well? This is all good? Wonderful. So hello again, everybody. So I am Ludovica Martella and my pronouns are she and her. I go by Lu as well, just to make everyone's lives easier, but you can call me with my full name as well, I don't mind. Tonight, I'm going to be talking about how we can detoxify our bodies and the earth at the same time. You will see here that I say that it's presented by the logo of Self-Sustainable Industries is the company that I founded, and I work with a conglomerate of diverse practitioners in sustainability and holistic health. And obviously we're hosted by the Alchemist Kitchen, which I have been going to for years as a good New Yorker. I've been a New Yorker for 14 years, but I've been working in Miami also, and I will talk more about that. My climate work is based in Miami right now. So we will get started, first of all, by acknowledging the land where we are today. So I'm currently on the land of the Seminole, I'm so based to say Seminole, which is the land of like Miami, but today I'm actually in New York City, what is known as New York City, but it's the land of the Lenape people. And here, I just like mentioned quickly, like what is like a land acknowledgement. And you have a click, you can look up this link here. If you don't know whose land you reside on, it's always good to be able to actually honor the native land where we reside and connect with the communities as well, if possible. And I will speak more about this as well. So who am I? Well, I said already that I'm a New Yorker. I've been here for 14 years, but I'm originally from Italy, if you're wondering where my accent comes from. These are just some of the, I guess, like milestones that I have like compiled during the years. I started my career off in journalism, and I swear everything makes sense. To everything I'm going to say makes sense and like comes back to why we're here today, so you understand more like about my background as well. I used to work in investigative journalism, and I noticed that like in the field of like climate journalism, there wasn't a lot of diversity, especially there wasn't the presence of the communities that are affected the most by climate change. So all of the panels of interviewees that I would go interview were majorly non-diverse, and I decided to take it upon myself and go into grad school in order to be able to have a general, like a better understanding of climate injustices throughout the years, and actually have the opportunity to study, especially with some Indigenous professors and leaders who have then like welcomed me into the field of sustainable studies under a completely different lens than what I had been accustomed to. So locally based, community-based climate action. I have worked in the realm of sustainability, always connecting the issues of climate and how it affects other issues such as gender issues, Indigenous issues, issues that are related to like the BIPOC community, so Black, Indigenous, and people of color. And I always have noticed this connection between how we treat our bodies and how that reflects into the state of the earth, because eventually everything that like we put on our bodies and in our bodies goes back into the earth, and we'll talk more about that. That brought me into practicing and getting certified as a Reiki practitioner as well. If you're familiar with Reiki, it's like energetic healing practice. And on these principles of connecting environmental impact and holistic wellness, I founded the self-sustainable industry, which goes by SSI for friends, I say, which is a consulting, sustainable and holistic health consulting firm that serves both individuals and small to medium businesses. But today we're going to be focusing mostly on the individual sustainability and holistic health rather than on something that, let's say, like a company can do in order to become more sustainable. So I want to take a second to just help you ground into why you are tuning in today. If you can just ask yourself, why am I tuning in today? Like, what am I trying to accomplish? Like, what would I like to learn? And considering that usually this information about the state of our climate is never happy information, let's face it, let's be real. I would like you to just not be scared from the information that you will be hearing. I won't be like too technical. Everything is very digestible, I promise. But are you committed to like taking action after you learn this information? This is only meant to empower you and not to scare you again. And I think this is just like very important to mention when we go into a conversation about things that sometimes like seem like so big, like so much bigger than ourselves. Because of that, before we jump into the all of the information, I would like to invite you, if you feel safe to do so, to put your feet on the ground and close your eyes for a second. And we're going to take a collective breath together, or more than one breath. So if you feel safe to do so, if you can close your eyes for a second. If not, you can like keep them open and look like somewhere in front of you, not too far from you. And just tune in into the moment. Taking a nice breath in and releasing. Let's take another breath in and release. One more breath in and release. Now, still with your eyes closed, if your eyes are closed, I would like you to imagine your favorite natural place, your favorite spot in nature that comes first to your mind. Is it a beach? Is it a park? Is it your garden? And I would like to invite you to really feel as one with your environment. what can you hear? Is there something that you smell? Are you sitting on a grass or on the sand? You see, we are part of the environment. This environment that you love is part of you. You're part of it. You are interconnected on an energetic and physical level. And just feel the peace that you feel in sitting into your favorite natural place. Let's take another couple of breaths here. So one breath in. And release. Another breath in. And release. Wiggle your toes a little bit, and whenever you feel comfortable, you can open your eyes again. Give you a couple of seconds. There's no rush. Oof. Are we feeling more grounded? I definitely am. So I walked you through this very, very brief meditation so that you could tune in into the moment, but also calm your system down and really feel, hopefully, like a connection between yourself, your being, and your favorite place that you imagined and that you relived and revisited throughout the meditation. And this is something that I use in my practice with my clients. Whenever people come to me because they feel like the sense of guilt, for example, of their environmental impact that they were not even aware of. And the good thing about it is that once you recognize that you're actually part of the system and you're not like a stranger in it, and that you can contribute to it and love it and take care of it, you will really like get into this mindset, if you don't have it right now, at least, of connection and interconnectedness. We are energetic beings, and everything that we put out there like comes back to us. And same thing we'll see now later in the presentation with certain like material things that we put on our bodies. Everything that like we put on our bodies, as I said, then like goes into the earth. And it's all about just like learning what things to like stay away from and like what things to like start integrating into your routine. There's no judgment here. We're here to learn together. And there's always more to learn, I promise you. I'm a researcher, so I never get tired of information. Right, so what's on the agenda today? As I mentioned, this field of work is very vast, but today we're going to be giving you a background on self-care products, your home environment products, the food and water that you consume, an action that you can take today in order to detoxify your body and environment by covering these three realms. So self-care products. When I talk about self-care products, I am referring to anything that ranges in the family of cosmetics and like lotion, soaps, shaving creams, toothpaste. So anything that you use, to take care of yourself, pretty self-explanatory. Why I got specifically into this is because back in 2018, I started noticing a lot of rashes on my skin. And at the time I was working at the UN in a very, very chaotic environment, which I left 2 days after, 2 years after. And I thought that it was related to stress. But then I noticed that these rashes like wouldn't go away. And at the time I was pretty earth friendly, but to be honest with you, like not much when it came down to my self-care like products. I was using like mostly products that you easily find, like big brands. And obviously the industry has changed a lot. So now we have more affordable product, like clean products on the market. But even back then it wasn't like super easy. And also I had not done my research. But my what turned out to be like my allergic reaction to some specific chemicals brought me to this work, really. So after having the opportunity to take some allergic tests, I found out that I had been putting on my body all of these different chemicals that I couldn't even pronounce, and I still cannot pronounce today. Because as you know, if you look at a label of a certain product, you see that they have this like very long, impossible to pronounce names. I had been putting them on my skin for years, and essentially I had become allergic to them, and my body was rejecting them. And I'm really glad that I started rejecting them, because it brought me to this work and delivering this message today and to all of my clients. Why are there harmful chemicals in products? Well, ingredients of products are not regulated by the government, especially in the US. There are not like strict like regulations at all when it comes down to self-care products. And even about, you know, we will go into like the quality of our water, but like the regulations are very thin and they leave a lot of gray room. For example, if you go to Europe, there are like stronger regulations, but even there, you still need to be like really careful. Researchers have found at least like 18 ingredients to look out for. And I will share after this class like a complete list with you, but also this products and research is always expanding. So as of now, there are 18, but also everyone has their own sensibilities as well. And these are harmful to our health, because the majority of this components can cause cancer and several types of cancer, and they are hormone disruptors. So this affects like our endocrine system in both people who identify as male or female, and we will go more into like some specific chemicals. I will just like point out like the most dangerous ones and the most common ones in the next slide. But when it comes down to the earth, these chemicals end up in our waterways and land. And that's because when we wash our face, you know, and then like our water like goes into like the drain, it eventually ends up in our waterways. Then what happens? The water gets used in order to plant food and for harvest. And then it's like a vicious cycle. All of these chemicals like keep on essentially like multiplying themselves. And same thing with the land. And we will also talk more about the effects of plastic and how it does the same damage into the earth, because a lot of the things that we also eat has lots of plastics, microplastics in them. So a few of the chemicals to look out for. I'm not going to pretend that I can read most of these names, but they're here on the screen for you. these are the top ones that have been identified by the Environmental Working Group, which is a huge research think tank that creates database and like always updates them. And you can find this in most products, so that you can like see like on the shelf, most big brand names. So for example, our first one here, and it's releasers, so which means that like you will have to like look specifically into the parentheses like on the labels where you can find this name, because sometimes it goes by other names. It's mostly found in like hair strengthening products, nail polish, eyelash glue, and an array on other cosmetics. And this is highly cancer inducing, especially thyroid cancer. It is mostly, it's starting to get banned by most retailers, such as CVS and Walmart, but really it's still used. So you really need to like look out for this one. A big one is synthetic perfumes and fragrances, which they sometimes go by acronyms that you can see here. These, unfortunately, I know that we all love our perfumes, at least like most people do, but they really damage our endocrine system, because these are completely made out of chemicals. They are usually like not natural derived at all, unless it is specified in the label. And usually when you see perfume or like fragrances, that is usually a way that companies like use so they don't have to actually label all of the chemicals that are used as fragrances. In sunscreens are definitely a big one. Chemicals that are in sunscreens are very dangerous to our coral reefs and to the aquatic ecosystem. That's why these two chemicals here are the most important ones that you need to like look out for. And sorry about that. We're not there yet. But you know, like all of these chemicals, like all of these different categories, this is just a glimpse. You can always visit our website or blog, or like contact me if there is something in particular that you like, a category in particular that you are curious about and you know like need help with. We have like tons of material depending on like each category. Then we have this one over here that is actually like really, it has been like recently discovered, I would say, because some companies are starting to like ban it, but it's linked with brain toxicity and especially dangerous during pregnancy. So if you are expecting or are planning to expect, please look out for this one. And then this one we see like most companies have been, you know, like creating products that are without like parabens. These have been like pretty much eliminated from like even most, you know, shelf products, but they are definitely still around. So you need to absolutely like look out for these, because once we put like all of these chemicals on our bodies, like after a long time, what happens is that they accumulate and then like our body reacts in different ways. And unfortunately, it could manifest with either like a disease or simply like with a rash, as it happened to me. But obviously we don't want that to happen. And obviously we want to protect our environment. Because especially think like what something can do to us and what something can do to also like the life that lives around us. If it can affect a human body, imagine what it can do to like, you know, for example, like the fish in the ocean. They're obviously smaller beings, so just something to keep in mind. So some recommendations for self-care products, please read your labels. It's really important. I know that sometimes it can be, definitely time consuming, but it's definitely worth it for your health and the health of the environment. Again, if you need someone to do your research, I'm happy to discuss with you some of the services that we offer. But if not, some things that you can keep in mind is to look for products that are microbiome friendly, fair trade, they're synthetic free, gluten free, risk safe, GMO free, and cruelty free. These are usually the categories that B corporations, so corporations that sustain the highest standards of sustainability in the market today, actually implement and they expect from their companies. It's important to know your brands, obviously, and if you can buy local or from brands that are, have all of these attributes, obviously it's much better for the community and for the environment as well. Some of our favorites of SSI's favorites are the leading libation products when it comes down to self-care products. Or you can also look at environmental working group website. They usually have some pretty good recommendations as well. And obviously, as you know, as you're tuning in today, the Alchemist Kitchen, they have all natural based products, and we can definitely talk more about that as well at the end of the class. So in terms of home environment, pretty much you have to keep in mind the same list of chemicals, because the same chemicals that are used in order to make, for example, cosmetics have more texture, or fragrances and things like that. That also in home environment products. So we're talking about laundry detergent, soaps, things to wash the floor with, for example. But when it comes down to home environment, what I really want to bring your attention to is microplastics, because usually home environment products come into usually pretty big plastic bottles. And something interesting that came out this year, a study of scientists based in Italy from January of this year, found for the first time microplastics in the placenta of babies. So microplastics are essentially particles of plastics that are smaller than 5 millimeters, and they are usually released by big pieces of plastic, for example, a laundry detergent container, or even from fabrics from your clothes. Plastic never disappears in the environment. So all of the plastics that we have been using essentially at a certain point becomes a microplastic, and it gets into our food and our water. And that is why it was found on the in the placenta of this on this baby. And the placenta is the part that essentially provides all of the nutrients to the baby from the mother. And this is very worrisome, because essentially scientists were claiming that for the first time they were finding out that essentially we are giving birth to humans that are also made out of plastic. And that is not a nice picture. It just shows the state of the pollution in which we're in. And you can definitely have power in this in order to change things. But also something important to say is that when I say that you have the power, it's because we create with our, where we put our money, we direct the market. So we will force them, big corporations, to adopt sustainable standards so that they will create, for example, compostable packaging, which is something that we will be talking about. And there's definitely brands to do this already. So the weight of the world is not on you, but this is just informational to like show you a little bit of things to keep in mind when making your next purchases. Obviously, microplastics are detrimental to the endocrine system, but also, you know, like we don't know exactly like what can happen in the development of these babies so that now have like so much plastic in their system. So this is like an ongoing research, but it's definitely something to keep in mind. So things to like watch out for are, for example, like laundry supplies. This is really big in the research. Any type of plastic container and reusable plastic caps, even like baby bottles that are made out of plastic. So some recommendations for these is obviously always to like research your brands and like their values and what they stand for. You can usually tell if a brand is greenwashing you, which means that they're using the term sustainability just for marketing purposes, because if they have sustainability on their website, it would usually just have like a paragraph or something about we care about our environment, but it would say, it will list no action that they're taking whatsoever. And we want to see the facts, okay? So you want to see like what they're actually doing. Are they using compostable packaging? Are they taking care of their workers? What ingredients are they using? How are they sourcing their ingredients? Which is also very important. Definitely reduce the use of plastic. So please, I know that it's convenient, but like do not use your takeout containers over and over again, because that plastic then like once you microwave it, it goes into your system. So it's definitely good to invest in some like glass containers if possible. It's usually like the safest bet. And as I mentioned, also like compostable packaging in brands, definitely very important. Some of our companies' favorites when it comes down to these kind of like home products is the brand 7 Generations. They are a B corporation, so they do have like very high sustainability standards. But obviously, you know, there are so many other brands that are also like smaller that you can support, so they can grow, and they're like usually, you know, they can be like women-owned, whatever speaks to your heart and whatever cause you care about. Like trust me that there is a brand that is taking action on that. And you can find like a good list of these in on the B Corporation's website, which doesn't only have like big brands, it's also small brands and corporations. Okay, so let's look at like food and water. I'm pretty sure that we're all familiar with the fact with the Flint water crisis. Now it's going on for the 7th year. Okay. And unfortunately, tap water I'm just going to speak about like the USA, but this is obviously like a global issue, has very high percentages of lead and arsenic in them. And this is a very, it's very worrisome because this is usually in low-income communities or BIPOC communities, unfortunately, because of like practices that are called like redlining practices. If you're not familiar with this term, it's essentially, you know, the fact that certain areas have been designed in cities just for people that like are part of these communities, and therefore they get the most polluted water. They live in the most polluted part of the cities or towns, etc. And therefore, those are cases of climate justice. When I mention climate justice, is exactly that some communities are more exposed to environmental hazards than others. And when we look at our food, there's a lot of like food additives, but especially fertilizers that are used to like grow food, especially food that is like non-organic and produced like mass produced. So we're not talking about like local produce, which is very, very dangerous for our system, because of the same reasons that we've been talking about until now. Your worst enemies are the chemicals that are in these substances, for example, in the fertilizers, and also the microplastics, for example, like all of the wrapping that is used to wrap the food. I would say, oh, there's an error here, I apologize. Here, like I was, some of our favorites, not 7th generation, I'm not sure why that happened, but what some of our favorites are the Brita, BRITA, water filters. They also have water bottles that are not made out of plastic. They're made out of steel, actually, so you don't have that issue. And they also come with a filter inside the water bottles. So those are our favorite pick. And I think that this, you know, typo here was because today, if you're interested in like small parentheses astrology, there's some stuff going on with Mercury. So it feels like a Mercury retrograde, apparently, something that we don't love, but anyways. And still definitely like referring to big corporations, and when it comes down to food, buying local food and supporting your local markets is really your best bet, because you can make sure to, because you know, usually like the farmers that usually know will tell you, like they wouldn't mind telling you, at least like that's what happens when I chat with the ones that I support, like how they grow their food, what they use to grow their food, and buying like organic is usually like better because of the reasons that we discussed. And if you're buying from like a local farm, if you have the opportunity to even go to them directly, it's usually most cost effective as well, rather than, you know, like buying like, for example, like organic food from Whole Foods, you know, which not obviously everyone can afford. So that's something to definitely keep in mind. So some, well, this is like what we just discussed actually. So I apologize for the repetition here. So I will take your questions very soon, but I just wanted to mention that like this is just a glimpse of the work that we do. At Sustainable Industries, we do research that is tailored to individual needs. From the side of sustainability, so for example, if you're expecting a baby and you don't have the time to like do all of the research, and you know, like you need some specific recommendations, we have a team that can help you create like a plan for you and can give you some recommendations. We usually like work with companies and brands, so we can provide you like a discount for some of their products. And when it comes down to energetic healing practices, we also offer things such as EFT tapping, which is another energetic somatic healing technique, and Reiki. In terms of like business consulting, we help small to medium businesses become more earth friendly. So whether you have the capability to reduce your waste increase your renewable energy like resources, so switching, for example, to more earth-friendly, like light bulbs, or if you can implement solar, even better. How can you reduce your plastic? How can you source your products? We help with that. Or if you want to, learn more, like, can I recycle at work? We have worked with places from retail stores to working spaces, to even like bodegas, and small businesses. And we offer workshops just like this one. So again, as I said, this is like a very general, introduction to like what to look out for, like more on the self-sustainability side. So on the individual life. But there's definitely like more to explore. We will be back at the Alchemist Kitchen with more specific themes, such as sustainability in food, and I will keep you posted on that. And these are my contacts and the contacts of SSI. You can see here that we have like, if you'd like to make a donation, the donations are always like appreciated, but not necessary. We thank you either way for your interest and for showing up. And yeah, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. And I will also, we will send out together with Luca a recap of this conversation today, but I will send you also like a code that you can use for Alchemist Kitchen products, so that you will get like a 10% off since you connected with us tonight. And so it's a way to like thank you for taking a stand towards a more self-sustainable future, and for the love of our earth. So thank you very much for your attention. Do we have some questions already, Luca? I wasn't looking at the chat.
No questions yet, but does anyone want to jump into the chat or with your turn your mics on and ask Ludovica a question? I also dropped into the chat her code, which is just her name with the number 10, and it's live now. So if anyone wants to shop, I can even give you a link to our website too.
I can stop sharing.
Oh, I have a question from CFast's iPhone. Are there any specific makeup brands that you would recommend?
Yes. So there's a ton of them actually, and I've been like I've been trying all of them myself. So I have mentioned, and I will put it in the chat as well, Living Libation. They usually have mostly like self-care products, such as like cleansers for your skin and stuff, but they also have really good like blushes, for example, lipsticks, and I don't believe they have like a vast array of like eye makeup, but like what comes to mind is this brand called 100%. I'm gonna put it in the chat. Pretty sure it's called 100%. I have like a huge database of this stuff. So with our company, that's what we do. But these are like a few of the things that like come to mind. 100% Organic is like a brand that like makes a really incredible sustainable like makeup. Sometimes I would say, I guess it depends on like what if you have something specific, for example, if you tell me like, oh, Ludovica, you know, like I'm a makeup artist and like I'm obsessed with eyeshadow, then I will, you know, like probably recommend like another brand that like has like a larger array. But these are like very basic, you know, like makeup like brands that have like, you know, like lashes and, you know, not like very advanced things. I'm like blinking now on the name, but yeah, if you like to get in touch with me, if you have like more specific like requests, definitely like let me know. I want to share also another one, but I need to like look up the name because once you do like a lot of research, sometimes the name clashes. They clash between one another, trust me.
I have a quick question. For someone starting out and trying to be more sustainable, what's like a first step that's really easy to do every single day?
Well, I would say definitely buy your own water bottle that you can refill and bring it around with you. Bottled, like water bottles are a no-no because of the water that it's inside, because it's like absolutely like polluted with all microplastics from like the heat, or example, that like has been like exposed to it. And so when I'm talking about like water bottles, I also mean like bottles that are not made out of like plastic. So like what I mentioned, like the Brita one that is made out of like of steel, and definitely one that has a filter if possible, so that, you know, I literally like refill mine like anywhere. Even if I go in the middle of nowhere in the States, you know, and, you know, I am like at a park or something, and I'm not like really trusting like the quality of the water, I can refill my bottle of water. So I would say that's probably like one of the easiest things that you can do. And then if possible, like switching to or adapting to like a meal, like eating a plan that is like mostly plant-based, has an incredible effect on the environment. Doesn't mean that you have to go completely plant-based if that's not your preference, but it definitely reduces the carbon dioxide that is, and all of the greenhouse gases that are connected to the industrial animal industry, which really is devastating our planet, and all of the big like greenhouse gases like sinks. So like, for example, the Amazon forest is being completely destructed because of, you know, of like beef production, the production of beef. Brazil is like the highest exporter and producer of beef. So like, that's what they're doing right now. So those two things I would say. And then again, like if you can invest, you know, in like buying like some containers to like keep in your fridge that are like made out of glass rather than plastic, you know, those like can make like a really big change because of the microplastic issues that I've spoken about. But also like you can bike places, like it really depends on like your environment and like your capabilities. And like that's why, you know, like we created this company, because we realized that like one size doesn't fit all, and we all live in very different places. We are all different like backgrounds, whether like financial backgrounds, you know, things that we can do physically or that we can't do physically. Like it really depends on each individual. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Definitely feel that living in Manhattan, that there's a lot more accessibility to sustainability, like city bikes and, you know, refillable water areas, stations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, any other last questions from the group?
Just like quickly before we get more questions, the whole refillable bottled water situation. I don't think this is true in New York City actually, but like in other cities, like such as Miami, for example, like you have to pay to refill your water. So that's why I was mentioning like having like investing in a bottle that has like a filter, and it's literally like I think around like $10 actually, goes like a long way.
Totally. Well, if anybody has any last questions, you're welcome to ask now, or I will also be sending out a way to stay in contact. So you can always direct message Ludovica on Instagram or through email, whatever you prefer. Oh, we kept saying hi. But yes, there you will have an opportunity to stay in touch. So if you can't think of any questions now, it's okay.
And I just put in the chat the other name of the beauty brand that I was thinking about. And this one has like a very wide range, especially of, you know, like colorful, like eyeshadows, for example, and things like that. Yeah. I'm happy also to like, I realized that like I stopped like sharing my screen, but I can also like, I guess like, if you like to, if you can't wait and like you want to get in touch with me, I can also put either my things in the chat. If you have like a question or like too shy to like ask, for example.
Yeah, go ahead and drop your email, and then also we'll send out the recap by tomorrow evening. So you'll have the recording and how to stay in touch with us, how to stay in touch with Blue. But yeah, I think this is a really great like first introduction course, and hopefully we'll have you back, Ludovica, and we'll be able to even go further into sustainability. Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you everybody for being here today.
Of course.
Oh,
thank you everybody for tuning in. It's really appreciated. And hopefully we can do this in person maybe one day so we can chat a little more.